we're gonna do, you're handling 9 moving parts, and you're gonna have to, by the drop of a hat, decide what it means, who's doing it to whom, at what time frame, what does that person saying, and it's takes about 6 weeks to really master the handling of all those 9 moving parts. And once you do that, a lot more of the world opens up to you. This is what we're gonna be doing here. So Dave, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us quickly, how much Spanish did you learn? What did you do? How much time have you been doing it, etc.?
I feel like I've been taking Spanish my whole life since I was in high school. But as I get older, I learn things and I write things down, but they keep falling out of my brain. So that's the problem. But I've been making since break. I've been doing all these books with Post-its and all these notes in a way that I hope will make things stick a little bit better. But I've been I moved from San Francisco to Puerto Vallarta almost 4 years ago, full time, living here. Primarily, I've been doing Duolingo every single day, probably for the last 2.5 or 3 years. And then I kind of supplement that with some other, primarily YouTube videos like Spanish with Paul and Hola Spanish, and of course these classes, which are helping to push me to want to learn quickly and hopefully more.
Hopefully what?
Hopefully retain more of the information that I learned.
Retain more of the information. Good. John, introduce yourself.
So I'm John, and I can, Dave, I could probably say the same thing he just said. I've been doing Duolingo for like 3 years, almost every day, studying Spanish, and I even went to American English school down here for a little while, which helped as far as the verbs, the present tense, the past tense. I felt that was necessary, but my problem is to converse. So that's why I'm here now. And I just bought a restaurant down here called the Reba. And
You cut off. Are you there? Say that again.
but I feel like I need to really learn it now.
Okay, you really need to learn it now. Okay, Joanne, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Okay, I live in San Francisco, and my friend and I plan to move to La Cruz later this year. So I'm trying to learn as much Spanish as I can, but again, I have the same problem as you guys do. It's retention, and it's really difficult for me. So I try to study a little bit every day, but I'm not taking any other classes. I'm just trying to do it on my own, which is difficult. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out ways to retain what I learned. Like this little vacation we have, I realized while I was studying that I was missing a lot. So I do need that, constant lesson type thing going with me.
Okay. So you feel better when you have like a constant lesson schedule every week, and it like keeps you in the game?
Right.
Okay. When you say it's really difficult to retain it or study on your own, what does that mean? You get bored like looking through your notes, you don't understand what your note says. What is it exactly?
I wish I knew. I think because of my age, I really forgot how to study. I mean, I haven't been in school since 1957. So basically, if I knew how to study then, I certainly don't know now. So it's a matter of I take notes, but how to keep a good binder is difficult. I tried doing it with verbs and that type of thing. And hopefully that helps me. But I keep finding myself flipping back and forth in my binder to find things. It's just a matter of learning how to put this information together.
It's a matter of learning how to
Study.
keep the information to get and where to find it when you need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's a challenge. That part is highly individual. I can tell you that students that have been with me for a while, 7, 8 months, they constantly some of them took this vacation time. They went and reorganized their notes. It's like a work in progress. If you rearrange the furniture in your house, or you rearrange your bedroom and the decorations every year or two, think about it that way. And every single time you do it, every new time you rearrange it in your brain, you make new connections, you see it better as a whole view from a bird's view. That's a work in progress. It's probably always going to be. There's not a magic pill I can give you and it's better. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
But as long as you're okay with that being a longer term process, don't stress out about it. It will be okay. That is a long-term process. There's no stressing out about making it quick if I could make you magically understand everything in 6 weeks, I'll be, Amazon, I'll be a bazillionaire, which is great. But I haven't found that magic fix yet. So here we are. That makes sense.
So I'm really glad to be back in class. Thank you. Gracias.
All right. Perfect. All right. Let's jump right into it, unless somebody wants to add something or ask something before we start.
No, I'm ready.
Okay. So go ahead and click on your chat, hover your mouse, your finger on the bottom of your screen. There's going to be a chat icon popping up. Click on it. There's going to be a sidebar on the right-hand side. It's going to open and stay open. And I'm going to forward several slides. Now, the slides are visual aids. Whatever can be explained, condensed into a slide, that's wonderful. Not everything can be explained with one slide. So the slides are visual aids. And this is what we're dealing with. I'm going to give you a visual representation of the subject, and then we're going to jump into the actual elements. So I want you to take your pen and your notebook, flip to a new page, make a circle, just like this one, and make 3 triangles within that circle. I'm going to forward everything I'm saying. I'm going to forward the visual so you'll see what I'm talking about. So 3 triangles within a circle. So that is the whole of the thing. And within each triangle, sorry, I want you to make one arm of the triangle either different color or super thick or something, make it stand out, because that is a visual representation of the subject. A triangle, by definition, needs 3 specific conditions to exist. A triangle, by definition, has 3 lines and they all have to be equal. If it doesn't have 3 lines, it's a square or a triangular or whatever, something else. And a triangular, by definition, has 3 equal lines. Or, they all kind of have to meet, right? There's different forms to a triangle, but if you look at it rationally, you understand it exists under very specific conditions. And so the subjects we're going to learn, you can divide it to 3 different categories. The same way you see the triangles they're all similar, but one arm is in a different color. It's because on two conditions are going to be always the same, the exact same thing, and one is going to variate. The variation would be if the reflexive verbs happens in the beginning of the action or the end of the action. Yada, yada, yada. We'll break it down in a few minutes. But I hope this is clear, how I presented it so far?
Yes.
Okay, good. And the final thing you will do within your triangle, take your pen and make a little split. A little V sign. So not only this triangle is going to similar to his 2 brothers, only with one difference. Each and every triangle has 2 scenarios within it.
Oh.
This is why I say we're dealing with 9 moving parts. before you're aware of it, that you got 9 different variables, there is no way you're gonna hear it by somebody speaking to it and figure out exactly what it means. You gotta know what you're dealing with to distinguish between them. And that is the work we're doing. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. The first scenario is when, okay, let's start with this. I'm sure you've all heard the sentences te amo, me gusta, te llamo, me llamas, dámelo, tráemelo, déjalo, olvídalo. Spanish language does something which English language doesn't do. There is a list of abbreviation which stands for each person. By this, me and te stands for I and you, and nos stands for we, and les stands for they or you plural. It doesn't exist in English. In English, you can say me or mine or am. They're all related to the I, but they don't equal I. It's not the same thing. They're related, they have a relationship, they're reference, but it's not the same thing as I. You agree? This is what happens here. So here is the full list of the abbreviations of who stands for what. And I'm thinking that you already know that. Me stands for the I person. Tu stands for the you. It doesn't equal you. You can't always use it, but your reference. Nos for we. Le, he, she, or it. Les, they, or you all. And that is right here on this note. Okay? Take a minute. I'm going to also put it on the screen. You can download the note, but make a point of copying what you see on the screen now into your notebook. This is going to be your reference list. You're going to use it a lot in the next few months, or weeks, or days, until you memorize it. You want to have this in your memory. You want a quick access to it, just like you know where your car keys are or your glasses are every morning. This needs to be in your brain for quick access. Good so far?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you have done it, everybody just gonna raise their hand and I'll move on to the next thing. Notice on my list, nos refers to we/us. This is because in Spanish, you only have one word, nosotros. Nosotros equals both we or us in English. English gives you 2 words, Spanish only gives you 1 word. That's what there's a slash. Unless refers to you plural or they, because those two are really quite easy. Very often they use the same verb. So when you're talking in conversation, you know, like we already know who we're talking about. If we're talking about they or we're talking about we or you all. So in real life, it becomes very clear. It's just a bit confusing on the paper. Okay, so raise your hand when you're ready and we'll proceed. John? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Joanne, tell us. I don't see you, so you tell us. Okay. Okay, the minute you hear a sentence coming out of somebody's mouth, the sentence starts with may, or te, or nos, one of the other ones. The minute the sentence starts with the may, you know 2 things immediately. The speaker is talking about himself, and what you're about to hear is either an action or an emotion. Let me give you some examples. Me gusta, no me gusta, me llamas, me traes, me llevas, me dejas, me vendes, me compres, me prestas. Me llamas, let's start with a simple one. Me llamas means, will you call me? Like I'm asking you to do the action for me. Me dejas is, will you drop me off? Let's say John gives me a ride and I'm like, could you drop me off in the corner or at the OXXO? John, me dejas en el OXXO. John, will you drop me off? Would you, will you, whatever. John is doing an action. I'm asking John to drop me off. I'm asking Dave to call me tomorrow. I'm asking Joanne to lend me her pressure cooker. All those 3 are actions. I'm asking, I'm talking, and I'm asking the other person in front of me to do the action towards me, right? He needs to give me his pressure cooker. He needs to call me. That interaction is what those reflexive verbs do. The confusing part is that not always they appear in the beginning. Sometimes they're in the end, sometimes they're in the middle. That's what we're learning here today, well, in this course. So today we'll start with the first scenario. The first scenario is when the sentence starts with may, say. It immediately tells you two things. When the sentence starts with a may, the speaker is talking about himself. I'm not talking about Dave being late for lessons. I'm not talking about John's bar last night. I'm not talking about Joanne cooking. I am talking to the person in front of me. You person, do some action or emotion towards me. Me dejas, me amas, all this stuff. So the minute you hear the sentence starts with me, te, nos, o les, it tells you two things. You're going to be hearing about an action or an emotion, and the speaker is talking about himself. Is that clear so far before I move on to the next element?
Yep.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
hear say a lot too. I assume you're going to talk about that, but oh, there we go. Gotcha.
Yeah. Say is the third triangle. It's the one we'll leave to the last because it's the most confusing one to English speakers, and it's got like a week of its own dedicated to it. We're going to get there. Yes. Okay. The key to that say stuff, the key is when you know all those things really well, like you can eliminate 6 things out of the table. I hear say, but I don't know what it is. I'm not sure. I can't recall, blah, blah. Whatever happens, you're not clear. By process of elimination, if you can tell me like 100% accurate, it's not may, it doesn't this, it's not that, whatever is left on the table, it's what it is. So you got a higher chance of accuracy. Make sense?
I think so, yeah.
All right. We're getting there. You got 6 weeks at you. You're at the you'll get there, trust me. Count your blessings. Okay. So those 2 slides I gave you, it's just a partial list. It's 4 out of the 6 you see, but you get the point. Okay, next thing. Look at the triangle you did. You got 2 arms that are the same and one that is different, like represented by a different color. What that means is this. I'm going to give you a slide that's going to tell you those 2 arms. Look at the slide, like you literally see there's a different color. So the ones that are the same color, they're going to be the same thing, and the different color is what makes triangle number 1 special and hence separated from the other ones. Number 1 versus number 2, number 3. I apologize, you're going to have to do like this to your head. I couldn't really find an app to make it more fancy than what it is.
Shade?
Now, one of the conditions that applies to this whole subject, all 3 triangulars, one of the conditions is that you're going to be dealing with an action or an emotion, but it's going to be an action that flows between 2 people. Not just any action will do. You're going to, the type of actions you'll be hearing about involved with the subject, an action which flows between 2 people. Think about it if I tell you the word give, okay? In English, let's think about English for a little bit. Hug, kiss, leave. Look at those verbs in English. The minute you hear one of them, you're like kind of anticipating to hear the other side of it. Leave what? Some kind of object, right? Or leave who to whom, or whom where, right? Or hug. You can't, that's not a standalone action. The minute you hear hug, you're like, hug who? Right? That's what I mean when I say actions which flow between 2 people. There are some brush your teeth, comb your hair, go. That is not an action that involves an interaction. If I say go or drink, I can do it on myself. It's not like an interaction between 2 people. But give or call, you immediately anticipate to hear about the other side. So those may, say, oh stuff appear when those kind of interactions. So to make life simpler, I gave you a list of verbs which flow between two people. And these are going to be like your benchmark, your reference point. It's a partial list. I can't give you every other, every possible interaction in the planet, but it's a good enough list. Okay? And we can add on it. So take a moment, read it, tell me that it's clear. Or if you have any questions, why is there a certain verb on the list? Ask me.
So Judith, these are all reflexive verbs. Is that, if I remember correctly, or no?
No. By themselves, they aren't reflexive. I mean, a verb is a verb, right? It's an action.
Okay.
But think of them like two-dimensional verbs. They can do what all the other actions do, plus some added thing the other stuff can't do. That are good. Superheroes. Explain it to yourself any way that makes sense for you. But yeah, they can do something the other ones can't.
Okay.
Yeah. By themselves, they're not reflexive. They're neither this nor that nor the third. They're just actions. A verb equals an action. So verbs is something that has a bad connotation. Everybody hates verbs. Actions is more straightforward. So, this is a list of verbs in Spanish, and you're expected to know each and every one of them. What's the translation to English? Because this is the intermediate class. By the end of this class, you'll become advanced. Not that I'm being hard on you. Frankly, you want to know those. This is such a useful list for your everyday life. You want to know what everything means in English. So, John, how many of those you can't recall what they mean in English?
Let's see.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, okay, Joanne, let's start with you.
Oh, Joanne. Okay. Vendar is rentar is to rent. Yavar is to hey.
Okay, so in this case,
Yes.
if you got more than 5 or 6 in here that you can't, first glance, you don't recall what they mean, you're going to take your pen now. We're going to do the equal sign on your notebook, not on the document. On your notebook, you're going to do an equal sign, write what it all means. This is going to be a working material. Like, we're going to get to know really, really well. By the end of the 6 weeks, you're going to know them all perfectly. And then you can start adding on to it. That's like your baseline. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah? Okay. Before we do that, John, how many of those you don't know by heart?
So I'm having trouble, I guess, downloading them or looking at the words.
You can just click on the document, or like on Skype, it's going to ask you to open it. If that doesn't work, I just copy paste everything on the screen so you can scroll down the screen.
Okay. All right. So dar, escucha, prepare.
1 second, I'm going to put on my fan because it's on. Right there. Excuse me a moment. Okay, and Dave, how many of those you didn't know by heart?
I think I know. I mean, when I look at them, I know what they mean. The by heart part, I mean, if you ask me to list the verb for every single one.
No. The objective here is like you look at those Spanish words and you have the English translation immediately in your brain.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I thought. Like, I know you and that's what I thought you know. Good. Perfect. The minute you know them on paper and you know them by heart, when somebody speaks it to you 500 miles an hour, you're theoretically supposed to know it too. The 500 miles per hour part takes a little practice, but you're halfway there. Make sense?
Yeah. The problem for me with the 500 miles an hour is that there's virtually no audio separation between words. So it's fine to say when I hear that word, but it's running into a different word on the front end and a different word on the back end. And it's like, what is that sound? I wish it was like YouTube where you could just control the audio speed,
Yeah. One of the keys to this situation is zooming in on specific sounds. For example, if you're going to hear estoy someplace, or soy, or eres, zoom in on specific sounds, and they do tend to stand out. And from that, you can accurately assess what does that train mean. The same thing we're going to teach you how to do with those verbs. By the end of the 6 weeks, you're going to be zooming in on mete, all those sounds, and if they're at the beginning or the end, and if you hear a said there, and you're gonna you will amplify your ability to accurately assess what is coming in, because imagine we're on the safari, right? We're taking a safari trip, we're with our binoculars and cameras in the middle of the field, all of a sudden there's a freaking herd of something running at us. There's a herd of big things running right at us. We gotta have a split second to assess. Is it buffalo or is it tigers? Like buffaloes we can stand and enjoy, and tigers we gotta run the heck the other way. Well, how do you assess? Well, does it have a tail? Does it have stripes? Does it have big teeth? Within a glance, you assess if it's a buffalo or a tiger, and that's how you determine what's going on. By the same token, you're going to hear te, say, me, and then, is that a good example?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I totally agree with Dave. That's how I feel too. So yeah.
Okay, welcome to the jungle.
So I'm excited to get to the end of 6 weeks and be able to differentiate. Yes.
All right. So John, tell me, when you look at this list of words, how many of them you don't have an immediate English translation pop up in your brain?
Probably know 80 or 90%, I guess.
Good. Perfect. So, okay, let's start with you. Scan the list with your eyes. Tell us the ones you don't know. We'll give it to you right now.
Let's see. So, Dehar.
Okay. Or Joanne, would you like to tell Dave what does Dehar mean?
Pagar? I don't know. I don't. I have to look at unfortunately, I have to look at my list.
Okay, no, that's okay. If you have to look, that's like, now we're practicing the in the brain stuff. No looking. Dave, what's your call?
Dehar, to leave.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. It is to leave or drop off. Sorry, to leave. Hey Judith, I brought you a bottle of wine. What would you like me to put it? I'll just leave it on the table. Or what do you want me to put it? Oh, just leave it over there. That's the har. And another way we use it is, hey Dave, can you give me a ride? Yeah, sure. What do you want me to drop you off? To drop off something? Oh, I have to drop off my kids at soccer practice at 4, but afterwards we can go to dinner. To drop off, that would be the har. I hope that's clear.
So Dehar and Salir, what's the difference?
Well, what is the difference between exit and go out versus drop off or leave?
Okay. So
Okay.
Salir is exit. Like Salada is the
I'll go out, because sometimes we say, like me and my girlfriends, oh, we want to go out on Saturday night, put on heels, and we want to go out. That would be Salir.
Okay.
If you look at the English stuff, the English doesn't make sense. Why the heck do you put exit in the supermarket or the movie theater, and then me and my girlfriends having a fun night on town and we use the same verb? Like,
yeah,
those inconsistencies happen in Spanish too.
Okay.
As long as you get used to seeing it with the equal sign, the equal sign is there so that your brain's like, oh, that's this. Like no thinking, just, oh, that's this. Make sense?
See.
Okay, Dave, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's in English, there's just one word, and it's leave. To apply to everything like that.
Me and my girlfriend want to go out on Saturday night. I will never say that with the word leave, ever.
Right.
and you got exit. You go to the movie theater, the lights go on, you don't know where to go, you got the sign exit. Why doesn't say leave?
But to leave the house or to leave it on the table is the same in English. But in Spanish,
Well,
it's split into two. There's two different verbs for it.
the fact that this is today's English, it's one thing. If you look at a movie from 1955, people spoke differently 50 years ago. The language evolves, so it's not like set in stone. Do you know what I mean? Okay, next one. John, what's your next one on the list?
I don't know. Let's see.
Make a list for yourself, Joanne and Dave, while he speaks, and then we'll deal with yours too, and then we'll proceed forward.
So I always get pedir and perdir mixed up. Pedir is to ask, and perdir is to order, or vice versa.
Say that one more time in Spanish.
The pedir and perdir, I mix up a lot. One's to order or is ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Now look at me spelling those phonetically. I spelled it one time the proper way. The second one is with phonetic breaks. Say those two things in English.
Let's see. So you put pay dear, per dear.
Pay dear, pay and deer, the animal. The other one is pair there. Pair there, pay dear.
Pay
Now
dear,
you can hear the difference.
pair dare.
So pay dear with the animal is below the proper Spanish spelling. The first one means to ask for or place an order. Here is to ask for or place an order.
Okay.
Like if you go to the counters, the chicken place, like, hey, I want three chickens to go and 2 cold salads, right? To ask for place and order, exactly like because you're dealing with a restaurant and waiters and all the stuff, you can know that. There is to lose, like lose your keys. That make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. My recommendation to you, John, you take a Post-it, you write those two things phonetically or with the equal sign in the English translation. Only those two things on one Post-it, stuck it, put it somewhere you can see it like 10 times a day. Within a week at the most, you're going to know those two by heart. Try it.
Okay.
Dave and Joanne, were you clear on this difference or not really?
No, I'm definitely clear on it. Absolutely.
All right.
Because you're pronouncing an R. So that should show you the difference between the two. So pedir and perder. Right?
Yeah, you can spell it phonetically to yourselves anytime you see this word, and you know, make it phonetic until you get used to it. That is one of the other issues that Dave mentions, the 100,000 miles an hour train with the multiple words and it all sounds like one. At some point in your Spanish journey, it becomes crucial to understand the difference between the sounds. If there's an E or an A there, and how is that pronounced in Spanish, those little tiny things make the difference. It's like any other area in life when there's like, a really small margin of error and it's really crucial you get it right. In the really advanced level, that's what it becomes. But once you decode that, like you have no problem with understanding. Your ear does that like super fast as a background process and you just hear it. Like just English. You can zoom out and listen to the radio and you get everything. Like your ears do that. Yeah, it definitely takes time.
So another question on that, Judith. I thought in Spanish, like the E was always, the English and Spanish is kind of opposite, right? E always sounds like A, and A sounds like E in Spanish. But you have an E in both of these, but they're pronounced differently, correct?
Right. Here is a benchmark. Every time you see the letter E in Spanish, think of the name Echo, Elephant, Eduardo. Say those 3 words right after the other. Try.
Echo, elephant, Eduardo.
Say that again.
Echo, elephant, Eduardo.
Now say India.
India.
Now say inside.
Inside.
Now say intense.
Intense.
Okay, now say the 3 E words in a row and immediately say the I words in a row and you'll be able to notice the difference. Go.
Echo, elephant, Eduardo. India. Inside. Intense.
Can you see a difference in your mouth?
Yeah. See.
English messes us up. English spells one thing like this, one thing like that, and you're kind of randomly supposed to get it. Like, I learned English in high school. Trust me, it was super freaking hard.
Yeah.
There's no sense. I think Spanish is a fixed thing. So yeah, every time you see an E, you're gonna make a Eduardo sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next word. How many words do you have left, John?
How many words?
Go ahead, tell us all of them. That's fine.
I think I know the rest.
Okay. Okay. If you remember something you don't know, just ask us next lesson.
Okay.
You really want to have it done. Like, you know, it's like painting your wall. You can't have like blind spots left. Make sure it's all good. Dave, you're next. Tell us the list of words you don't know.
I think I know them all.
Okay. Joanne, your turn.
I pretty much don't know most of them by heart.
Okay.
Like Yavar is to go, para Yavar is when you.
No. Yavar does not equal to go at all.
Okay.
Is to go. Yavar is this in English. The fact that there is a phrase, I want my pizza to go, doesn't mean that this is the same thing.
Oh, to take away. Oh, got it. Okay, so para Yavar means I want it to go, but it's really to take away, right?
Yeah, it's a phrase, like takeaway.
Okay.
What is that like? It's just a phrase, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well,
Okay.
I thought I knew that one, so obviously.
All right, here's your homework, Joanne. I know that you, because you've taken the beginner's course, you have a list of verbs, and all those verbs came from that list.
Yes.
So your homework is going to be to look at our current list from today and refer back to the 2 verb documents and just make the equal sign in your own handwriting and write down to yourself what everything equals.
Okay.
And during this course, we're going to be working with this list a lot more than the other one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, to go is ear, right?
Yeah, like I want to go to the beach. I want to go home. I'm going to go to the pharmacy tomorrow. That would be ear.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
If it's an action you do with your feet, it's going to be ear.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so now this is the list of verbs that happen using mete say. The mete, whoever comes at the beginning of the sentence, the first thing, literally, you're opening your mouth, you're going to start with mete say. The second thing is going to be the verb. And the third thing is that those verbs are going to have a designated ending. They're not going to be sounding like the one on the list because the list I gave you right now is the name of the action. To lose doesn't mean I lost, we are losing, she's lost. That's not it. That's just the name of the action, to lose. By the same token, me gusta, o me llamas, or me traigo, or anyone, I'll give you a full list of examples in a minute. Every time you need to say one of those, you're gonna have to conjugate the verb. So conjugating verbs is an awful subject and everybody has bad memories from it. So we're not going to use this term at all. What we're going to do is going to give you a list of keys, and depending who's doing the action, you're going to slap that ending on the verb. Does that sound better?
Mhm.
Okay. So now I'm going to bombard you with a whole list of possible scenarios, how that might look, how that might play out. Don't get scared. This is a really full list that covers pretty much most of the scenarios. This stuff is going to show up, and the best thing about it, you can keep this list and use it in real life. So you literally can take it with you tonight, John, and talk to your waiters about it and understand what they're saying.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to talk about this list a little bit more because remember there's a split, never mind. But part A, you know what, actually I might just remove those two. Let me break it down simpler. Hang on, don't download all 4 of them. I'll just start with the first. Things like saying, I'll call you or you'll call me. In Spanish, it's mega confusing because it could be te llamo o me llamas, and it means 2 different things. One is you doing it for me, one is I will call you. And to a native English speaker, you're like, what the hell? They almost sound similar. That is why when it becomes important to diagnose this stuff. Te llamo. Here are your first clues. Look at the sentence. I told you the minute it starts with a te, the speaker is talking about the other person. In every possible interaction, whenever, like, there could be a group of 3 people standing here, or it could be just John and Dave talking to each other. Whoever is doing the talking at that moment is the I person for that conversation. Think about it. Every time you speak about something, when you speak, you are the I person in that story, right? And anybody you speak to, if you're not speaking to yourself, the other person is automatically the you in that conversation. Make sense? Yeah. And you. So the minute the sentence starts with a te, it tells you that everything you're about to hear is about the you person. Okay? Did that make sense to you? Okay. All right. So what you're required to do when you see or hear those type of sentences is zoom in on the beginning. It starts with a te. Okay, the other person is the subject. Then you're going to look at the verb. Does it mean an emotion or an action? Maybe I love you, maybe I miss you, maybe I hate you, or maybe I want you to give me a cup of coffee. Who knows? So you're going to look at the verb to see what's going on. The third thing you're looking at is the verb ending, because it's going to tell you who's doing the action. If the recipient is in the beginning, the you person is in the beginning, and the I person is doing the action, ergo, the I person is doing it to the you person. Can you call me? Bring me coffee, drop me off, leave me alone, call me later. Make sense? The best way to remember it, te llamo means I will call you. And the best way to remember it is an easy example you all know, te amo. Look at it. I love you.
Okay.
You all know it by heart, this example. It's a perfect benchmark for this whole triangle. If te amo equals I love you, it's the person flowing an emotion or an action towards a you person. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another example by the same token. Me gusta café. I like coffee. Me gusta café, right? The person opened his mouth, he's speaking about an action or an emotion, and he's talking about himself. I like. That makes sense?
That does.
Awesome. This is step number 1. This is the easiest scenario. Get that making sense in your brain, not necessarily after this lesson. It's okay if it takes more than 1 or 2 lessons for it to fully sink in. But once you master this, it's easier to see how the other two are different than this. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I'm a little running ahead, not to bore you, but we'll like really sink in on it. The next step in our story is having the list of endings, which implies who's doing the action to whom. Now, forget everything you've ever known about verbs, okay? Forget the other lessons you took, forget all the grammar rules, whatever other, forget it. Narrow your focus, make your focus really, really narrow, okay? Here goes. This stuff can appear in present, past, or future. It doesn't matter. People call each other all the time, last night, tomorrow, whatever. We're gonna start with the present time because it's the most versatile one and you can make anything work with it. If John wants to tell his waiter to call him tomorrow, but John doesn't remember how to say that, John can say everything in present time and still make himself understood. And I'll show you how. So every single action in the previous list of the name of the actions we did, I'm going to show you the endings. You're going to get rid of the R, slap the ending that corresponds, and that's how you're going to make full sentences. And at the end of the lesson, your homework, you're going to write down, between now and next lesson, you're going to write me down a whole bunch of sentences to show yourself how easy it can be. You're literally going to work by a formula and duplicate that formula, and before you know it, you're going to have 15, 20, 501 sentences, all working by the same formula, and you're going to find out you know how to say a lot more than you thought you can. Go. So the list of endings that work for this whole thing, for this week, for our purposes, for your homework and for everything. Not forever, just for now, for the future, for the present. Here goes. Okay, give me a second. As I look for Dave, do you remember the list of endings for present tense?
The list of endings. Abba? You mean Iba? Abba? Iba? No.
No, that's past tense. Yo compro, tú compras, él compra, nosotros.
I mean Otto, Ito, that kind of thing?
No, that's another time tense. Okay. Okay. Hang on a second. Verb. Okay. There you go. Verb endings for the present tense. I'm going to put it on the screen right now. This is what I'm talking on. Again, I am promising not to confuse you with verbs and rules and things like that. This is just the one thing you need to know for now.
Oh. Okay.
So we're not worrying about AR versus IR or ER verbs.
None of that. None of that. None of that. Do you like it? Do you want to worry about it?
No, it drives me crazy.
I agree. It drives us crazy. Okay, so to decode what is going on in conversations, for the purpose of this week and the next, we're going to pretend it's always, always, always present tense, just to keep it simple. And you can actually make it work in real life too. Every single action that you're going to do to another person, Dave is going to bring coffee to his partner, or he's going to ask his partner to give him coffee. Those type of interactions, you're going to use those verb endings to signify who is bringing the coffee. Make sense? All right. Okay, so Dave, give me an example, please.
Yo traigo el café.
Perfect. One more.
Tú traigas el café.
Awesome. One more. Run down the list so everybody can hear you.
Ellos Traen.
No, sorry, keep it down. Keep it the same cascading order. The one
sorry.
is
Okay. Él trae el café.
look at the list. You don't have to do it from memory. That's okay. You got it right here.
I'm trying to think. Trianos.
Well, it's either most or no. So pick one. If it's too hard on the tongue, it's probably the other one. That's the benchmark rule. Nosotros traemos el café.
Oh, traemos.
We bring the coffee. And the last one?
Ellos traen el café.
Awesome. Good. Now, John, we're with you. John, pretend I'm the waiter. John is going to talk to his waiter, and John is going to tell the waiter, I clean the table, you clean the table, he cleaned the table, they cleaned the... Wait, do that, John. And use the verb limpiar.
Yo limpio la mesa.
Perfect.
Te limpias la mesa.
Perfect.
Él limpia la mesa.
Perfect.
Nos limpiamos la mesa.
Perfect.
And ellos limpian la mesa.
Was that a useful example?
See?
Awesome.
El baño.
Now tell me something else. Let's go.
El baño on set.
Okay, give me one more example. Cleaning the table is obviously something that can happen in your real life. Give me something else. Cooking, paying, bringing, whatever. Renting. Go.
Yo cocino.
Good.
El desayuno.
Yes.
Let's see. You cocinas. Te cocinas el desayuno.
Perfect. Literally look down the list and run down. Like make it easy for the first few times. Perfect.
El cocina el desayuno.
Perfect.
And nos cocinamos el desayuno. And
Perfect.
ellos
He's
There's
helping you.
somebody
That's
yelling
what
at
you're
you.
here for.
ellos cocinan el desayuno.
Awesome. Do you think it's easy or hard the way you did it right now?
Easy.
Perfect. Homework, and I want you to take 10 minutes of your day to do it. Make the same thing verbally or in writing. Verbally, probably better. Take 3 other verbs and run down the same list with different verbs to prove it to yourself that it's easy. You can say anything that way, okay? Do it. Okay, good. Joanne, your turn. You're gonna start with a different verb and do the same thing.
Any verb I want.
Yeah, any verb you want.
Veneer.
Okay. Okay, not a good one because veneer has an anomaly. So those work like clockwork by the same formula, and then there's like 5 verbs that got a G or a Z popping out of the blue just because. So veneer is one of them, so pick another one, please. I'll explain more later about that.
Okay, comer.
Perfect. Go.
Okay. Yo.
Actually, you're supposed to start with may. I'm sorry. John made the same mistake, and I kind of didn't catch it.
Oh,
You
May.
yeah.
Okay, May. Como. I have to get way up here. Okay, never mind. Comes.
Say that one more time.
Comes.
Okay. Nice.
Hmm?
Te comes.
Te comes, comes or comes?
Yeah. Te comes. You eat.
Okay. Um, ella come.
Yeah, but use the list of abbreviation from the other list. It's not he or she. It's the other thing that refers to it.
I don't know. No,
Okay,
no.
just like me refers to I and te refers to you. Which is the two letters that refers to he, she, or it? Look at your notes. I think I told you to copy it from the screen to your notebook.
I'm really confused with this. I'm not getting it at the moment, so I
No
really.
worries. No worries. Okay, no worries. Dave and John, your task is going to be to make 5 more sets of those. Pick a verb, run down every person, pick 5 different verbs, make a set of 5. I'm thinking by the end of that, it's going to be enough. You're going to get the drill of it. This is how you say things. Once you get that right, you're confident, the next step is showing you how you're going to say it in the future, in the past, in the da. It's going to be ticking off really easily. But get that, like, up and down the ladder and be confident you're doing it. Sounds good?
See,
Yeah.
Okay.
Jim, a question for you, and I think this is where is it Joanna was running the problem? Like yo como versus me como, two comas versus te como, le come versus ella or el.
Yeah.
What the same
Okay.
or no?
I understand your question. Here is what is happening here is that we're dealing with a two-word sentence for the sake of practicing one narrow element. But in a real life conversation, you don't say a two-letter sentence. There's a whole conversation going on. Are you gonna eat this? Cause I wanna, can I finish your vegetables? Are you gonna eat this, or I'm gonna give it to the dog? Are you thinking of buying it? Cause I might buy it. There's always a whole much more words going on than just those. So what you're asking is really good. It depends on what else is going on in the conversation. It's going to be appropriate to say yo or me. The may stuff only appears when you're dealing with an action or an emotion that flows between two people or a person and an object. Are you going to eat this? Le comes esto? Let's say I'm inviting John and Joanne to dinner in my house, but I don't know if you guys are vegetarian. Are you allergic to gluten? Do you eat seafood? I know I invited to dinner and say, John, do you eat seafood? Joanne, do you eat seafood? That's the question. Do you guys eat breakfast, or you just want to meet for brunch? All those kind of things. Now the eating is not something you do alone. Now it's like related to some other interaction. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Joanne picked the example of comer. It's not a great example. For that purpose, it's not on the list. I gave you a list of interactions that happen between two people. Comer is not one of them because to eat is a singular action. There's no interaction there. You eat, that's it. Joanne picked a bad example. You should pick an example from the list. I'm going to put it again on the screen. That's why I said it's a triangle, Joanne. You got step 1, step 2, step 3. And your homework, you're going to look at point number 1 and do it. Point number 2 and do it. Point number 3 and do it. Until all those dots connect in your brain too, and then you see it and you do it. That make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put the instructions again. It doesn't matter. I'll just do them for your homework. You're only going to practice the list of verbs that flows between two people, which is right now on the screen. You're going to have 3 things for your practices. For this whole course, you're going to have 3 things on your desk. You're going to have them printed out, and you're going to have them written down in your notebook in your own handwriting. Okay? Surround yourself with it. You're going to have number 1 is the list of abbreviations. A refers to I. Number 2, list of verbs that flows between two people. And number 3 the list of verb endings. So you're taking, you're going to print those 3 things out. You're going to also copy them to your notebook. Page number 1, then page number 2, and page number 3. Your homework, you're going to look at those 3 pages. Okay, pick one from the list. Me. Step 2, go to the list of verbs. Me llego. Number 3, find which verb ending I want to use this time. Me llego, me llegas. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That is what we're doing here. The subject is different than all the other ones. It's not like the verbs you've learned before. It's a very niche by itself, and it's got rules by itself. It's its own universe. That's why we're focusing, very narrow focus on those elements. Make sense? To give you some, it's okay if you're going to forget or get confused or not clear or I don't know what or how. For that purpose, I'm going to give you a list of examples. This is in my own handwrite. This is for you guys to see how that stuff works. And pretty much if you want to copy this list word by word, maybe just use a different verb just to understand more. You can go ahead and use this example, duplicate it.
Okay.
And John, if you're feeling a bit more advanced now, you can go talk to your staff, telling them those sentences from the list, and notice how they understand you and what they're saying back. Okay? Definitely find the time to practice. Sorry, definitely find the time to practice in between lessons. If you let 3-4 days to go by, you're gonna go back to the point, confused, don't really remember. It's gonna drag out longer. So I highly recommend find 10 minutes a day to just write that between lessons. What was the question?
So I think you said that I can go back and look at the class today and look at the chats. Is it after we get off? Is that?
Yeah, once we
That would
hang
be
out,
really good.
once we hang,
Okay.
once we hang up, within a few minutes after we hang up, you're gonna go back to the chat. There's gonna be the call recording,
Okay.
and you can play it as many times as you like. You can also download it to your computer, and then just save it. Skype is only gonna save it for 30 days. So if you think this is valuable material, download it to your computer. You're gonna have it there forever.
Okay. Very good.
Hey, any questions?
No, not really.
Okay. I'll see you on Friday. Don't worry about if you get confused. It's part of the process. Like, you're not expected to master it by this one class level. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Gracias.
Bye, gracias.
Bye. Thank you.